Okay.
This story is called Changes. Let me tell you about how I changed. Sounds cliche, I know. Still, in the grand scheme of things, I think it is an interesting story. I was nothing special before, at least not in my own eyes. I kept my proclivities to a minimum to avoid being caught. The world frowns on those who kill for fun. Though I had so many kills under my belt, I was discreet. That was for safety's sake, you see. The idea of life in a small box did not appeal to me. I was proud of the count I had amassed. I was bigger than Bundy, and no one knew my name. I was a ghost. The ones I had killed were yet unknown, and I meant to keep it that way. The thing I did not realize is that there were those monsters out there who were worse than I could ever be. The blood on my hands had attracted the attention of such a creature. I was being hunted and did not have any clue about it. I went about my normal routine, unaware. I limited myself to no more than 1 kill a month, though I hungered for more. I could not risk the possibility of getting caught. It took willpower to limit myself. I told myself that was part of the process. If I allowed myself to give in to the urges, then I would be no more than an animal. That was not something I wanted to be. I wanted to be smarter than the police. I wanted to be strong. I wanted to be cunning. If I gave in to my baser urges, then I could not be any of those things. There is all sorts of monsters in this world, and so many of them wear human faces. I was always just one in the crowd. I knew I was a monster, and I was proud of it. I did not know that there was so much worse out there. I entertained myself with stories about werewolves and vampires, imagining that I was something akin to them, hidden away from sight in plain view. I laughed at the show where the killer was in the morgue or the crime scene unit. That made it too easy. I had to plan everything down to the minute details to avoid being caught. When I was doing this, I worked as a truck driver. Someone transient the world ignored. It was a perfect cover for me. Do you have any idea how many people hitchhike every day? People who disappeared and no one had any idea where. Most were never even missed. I watched the missing persons listings you see on the internet, looking for the ones that I picked up. I never saw any of them. The first few were problematic for me to dispose of, but I was quick-witted and solved the problem without any worry. However, this is not the story of my kills. I am not here to brag. That is just to set the scene. I mentioned that I was being hunted. There are immortal things in this world. Some of them protect children. Some of them create things that go bump in the night. I had attracted the latter. Or maybe it was a mixture of the two. I really don't know which. I suppose I had become somewhat cocksure. I was still careful with the ones I targeted, but I didn't pay attention to the other people I encountered. They were really of no interest to me, realistically. I owned the truck, so I rarely had to deal with any passengers unless I chose to. The dispatcher calling me to ask if I could handle a trainee driver was a true surprise. He offered me double pay for the 2 weeks the trainee would be in my truck. Greed was my downfall here. I am certain. I jumped at the increase in pay. I figured it was only 2 weeks, and I could deal with the delay in my normal activities for that long. My nerves were already jumping by the time I picked up the trainee. Though I didn't have any reason for it, the other driver was tall, lean, with long black hair pulled back in a tight braid. His eyes were soft blue, surrounded by lashes long enough to effeminate any lesser man. I put my people face on and greeted him like an old friend. He said his name was Azrael. I had introduced myself to him with a name I no longer remember. I did not notice that smile then, but in memory he smiled an almost demonic grin. Or maybe I am embellishing the whole thing with what I know now. Training a driver is nerve-wracking for any intelligent person. You're letting someone else control your truck. Driving an 80-ton death machine takes skill and awareness. Trainees are not always given more than enough information than they need to get everyone killed. I wish I could say that I was strong enough to refuse the money. I ended up doing it as often as they asked me, though thankfully it wasn't often. I should regret meeting Azrael. The first day was relatively easy, and we seemed to get along fine. Dispatch treats training pairs like a team, which means we were expected to trade who would be driving and the other one asleep. I took the first shift at the wheel, leaving the day driving for the newbie. Not everyone is suited for the night shift. I loved it. The roads were more barren, and it made picking up hitchhiking pretty easier. I remember when I went to bed, I was surprised at how well this was going. Sleep came easy. A few times I had taken a trainee before I had struggled to sleep with someone else driving my truck. I remember my dreams so vividly. I was standing in front of 3 people, and I was terrified. I knew that they were simply not someone that would be good for me to be in front of at any point. It was 2 men and a woman, but not a single one of them looked human. The one in the center was the closest to human looking, over 6 feet, with gray skin and blue fire where his eyes should be. His long white hair nearly brushed the ground. The other man was huge, with wings, tail, and horns. When I say huge, I swear he was 20 feet in height and built of sheer muscle. The female was gorgeous enough, with a body that made a person think of sin first, except for the textured area on her right side of her face and the horn that sprouted from it. She was the one that spoke to me. Her voice was husky and soft as crushed velvet. The blood covers you like a second skin. What do you think you deserve for your choices? In the dream, I stuttered, "What blood?" Then I looked down, and all I saw was the blood covering me. It was dripping from me like molasses and formed a large puddle at my feet. I woke up screaming. Azrael was calm sounding as he asked if I was okay. I looked about in a panic. The curtains between the driver and the sleeper compartment were still pulled tightly, blocking line of sight and light to where we were. I don't think I have ever had a dream like that before. I grabbed a water from the fridge, opened the curtains, and jumped in the passenger seat. I was not feeling like sleeping right then. How long was I down? He raised an eyebrow as he shifted lanes. Nearly 8. We're about 20 minutes away from the truck stop where I was supposed to wake you at. That only left me more tired and confused than I had been moments ago. I could have sworn I'd just fallen asleep. For once, I was honestly looking forward to the rot gut truck stop coffee. Maybe it would help me shake off the dream and be ready to function. The load had enough leeway for us to grab showers and food, something that was not always possible. We spent a good hour at the truck stop before moving on. The same thing happened for the next few days. I would go to sleep, only to find myself in front of the same 3. The female's the one who always spoke. She always asked me the same question. I did not panic about the blood after the first time, but it was disturbing. I couldn't understand why I was so covered in it. I had no wounds. I had no reason to be drenched in blood. I usually can control my dreams, but these were beyond my control. I always awoke just moments before my shift. I always felt like I had not slept at all, even though I had been sleeping for nearly 8 hours every time. I will admit I was starting to feel like I was losing my mind. I couldn't even blame Azrael. We were making the mileage while I was asleep, and how could he have affected my dreams like that? The lack of rest was starting to cause me to be paranoid. I was starting to hallucinate, seeing parts of people I had killed in the truck while I was awake. The first time, I truly panicked. I saw a delicate hand that I recognized as having belonged to a teenage girl that I had last enjoyed killing. I must have looked so strange, reaching for something on the floor that was not there. If Azrael noticed, he didn't say anything. I started hearing the voice of the woman in my dreams when I was awake. I was slowly going insane, and I knew it. Azrael was merely doing the job and ignoring my shenanigans. I'm not sure if he was even aware of the crazy things that I was going through. I was beginning to think that this was my penance for the lives I had taken, and I wanted to accept it, mostly because I was exhausted. It felt like I was not sleeping, and after a full week of it, well, I was beyond tired. That night, I went to sleep with a single thought in mind. I was going to accept my fate, whatever that meant. I doubted it would wash away the blood, but I would finally rest, and that's what I wanted. Again, I stood in front of the three. Details seemed sharper this time. I could smell the copper tang of all the blood mixed with the almost sulfur stench. I swear I could smell my own fear under all of it. The voice of the woman was soft and musky, with a hint of disdain underlying everything she was saying. I felt like she was looking down on me. I was less than an ant in her gaze. Her hazel eye, the one human-looking one, seemed to be judging me. The other one was black and hard as she stared at me, waiting for an answer to her demand. I had yet to speak in any of the dreams past the very first one. I swallowed and spoke quickly. I deserve to pay my penance and then finally be able to rest. Though I have killed quite a few souls, I don't deserve to be tormented for eternity. The woman stepped back, a single fluid step, as though she had been given her response she was looking for. I remember thinking at the time she moved like an assassin. The large creature on the other side spoke then. The voice was something that sounded like it was carved from hell itself, something both dark and deep that one could lose themselves in. What penance would you pay? I knew it was a question that I was expected to answer, but I was not sure how to do it. I don't know what they were looking for from me here. The debate felt like it took me an eternity. Finally, with a sigh, I settled for the truth. I don't know. I cannot say that I have remorse for my deeds. I enjoyed the lives I took. Still, I do not believe that I should be eternally tormented. Asking me to choose what penance I deserve is basically letting me get away with a lighter one. And whilst I am so fine with that, I doubt you would be. The middle one let out a belly laugh that rattled my soul. This is the first sound I'd ever heard him make, and it scared me. Somehow he was the most human of the three, and yet he was also the one who scared me the most. His presence was more potent than the other two. This time I could see the blue flames not only coming from his eye sockets, but from his mouth and hands as well. It gave an eerie feeling to him as he spoke. If I give you the ability to continue what you've been doing with a minor change, would you take it? He asked so casual. I was too quick to accept that choice. I should have thought more about it. I imagined that I would be still killing as I had done before, but supervised by these three somehow. He laughed again. This time it sounded mean more than anything. Suddenly, I was knocked off my feet by the most intense pain I had ever felt. I didn't wake up as I had every other time. Instead, I began to change. Physical changes came first, exquisitely painful. I grew taller by another 6 inches. I'd already been over 6 feet. This put me closer to 7. I sprouted 2 horns and an immense pair of leathery wings. I grew a 3-foot prehensile tail. My skin changed to a ruby red coloration with brown hair growing everywhere. Next came the mental changes. I soon forgot the majority of the life I had lived. It was no longer mine. My senses began to sharpen, causing the surroundings to feel overwhelming near immediately. The sulfuric smell of the cavern and the copper tang of the blood had formed a pool at my feet. The cool dampness of the pool I was standing in, the faint screams that seemed to be coming from everywhere around us and echoing softly across the cavern we were in. The new sensations were nearly maddening on their own. Azrael joined us soon after my change was done. He looked no different than he had in the truck, at least not in a physical way. But now he seemed to have an eerie pale blue aura surrounding him. I found myself grasping at the image of the Mac I had driven for the last few years. It was fading fast from my mind. He looked me over and smiled at the middle guy. So, decided to give Bub a new trainee, huh? I was still confused and in the immense pain, so I didn't see what was going on yet. I was looking around, trying to piece the puzzle together. We were in a cavernous room that looked like it was carved out of blood and lava. I still at that point believed that we were standing on Earth somewhere. I was not bright back then enough to piece my location together. I've grown wisdom in age. The middle one nodded and then looked directly at me. The big one here is Beelzebub. He is now your boss. He will lead you down to the pit and teach you how to play. If you listen to him, well, if you fail to listen to him, well, demons don't enjoy the pit either. Is that what I was? I thought, a demon. I looked again at the others surrounding me. The middle one still scared me, though my perception of him had not changed. The woman seemed to have a reddish aura of pain and death surrounding her. Don't ask me how I know what her aura meant. I still don't understand why her aura was more clear to me than Azrael's. The big one, Beelzebub, was more gentle in appearance than before. He reminded me of a gruff old grandfather who was only stern to keep his child safe. He led me here. I was given easy instructions on everything I was both allowed to do and what was expected of me. I have been playing in the pit for 1,000 years now, and you're the first guest I have told my story to. I now know who each of the 3 are and what I have become. What I was before was boring. Serial killers are a dime a dozen, but pit fiends are a lot more fun. The names of the other 2, well, names have power, and you don't deserve power.